Welcome back to Deadscape Diaries, where the darkest stories come to life. Tonight, we're diving into a chilling tale that will make you question what's lurking in the shadows of your own home. Imagine moving into your dream house, only to realize that the walls are hiding something far more terrifying than you could ever have imagined. A lullaby, a song meant to comfort, becomes a haunting melody that never stops. And what happens when the past refuses to stay buried, and the spirits of the forgotten return to seek the truth? Get comfortable, because tonight, we'll uncover the mystery of the lullaby. It all started on a quiet night in the house, just a few weeks after we'd moved in. I had just finished unpacking the last of the boxes and was finally starting to feel at home. The house was old, but charming. The hardwood floors creaked, and the walls seemed to hum with the weight of its history. I loved it. My husband, Brian, and I had been trying for years to buy a house, and now we finally had our dream home. But then came the sound. It started softly, so faint at first that I thought it was nothing. I was laying in bed one evening when I heard it, what sounded like a lullaby, the softest, sweetest melody drifting through the silence. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. At first, I thought it was some kind of glitch in the baby monitor. But then I remembered, I didn't have a child. I quickly checked the monitor. The nursery was empty. I laughed it off, telling myself it was probably just some old interference or a coincidence. But that night, the lullaby played again. And the next. And the next. Each night, it became louder, more distorted, until it was impossible to ignore. At first, I didn't tell Brian. I didn't want to seem crazy, especially after everything we'd gone through to move into this house. But it wasn't long before the melody became more than just a passing annoyance. The lullaby wasn't sweet anymore, it sounded almost wrong. The notes were twisted, the harmony off-key. It felt as though something was deliberately manipulating the sound, pushing it to become sharper and more unsettling. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to figure out where the lullaby was coming from. I stood in the doorway of the nursery, my breath shallow as I stared at the baby monitor sitting on the shelf. The sound was louder now, echoing through the walls of the house. The nursery, with its pale yellow walls and soft toys, was still as empty as the first night I checked. But something was wrong. The room felt colder. My hands trembled as I stepped inside, the faint music playing in the background. I looked around, expecting to find some kind of speaker or hidden recording device, but there was nothing. The baby monitor, however, continued to crackle and hum. Suddenly, I heard a voice, a soft, guttural whisper that didn't belong to the lullaby. "Help me." I snapped my head around, my pulse racing. There was nothing there, but the voice echoed in my mind. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I had to know what was happening. I started researching the house. The internet didn't offer much, just the usual history of old properties. But I kept digging. I eventually found an article buried in a local newspaper archive about the previous owners. The house had once belonged to a family, the Millers, David and Claire Miller, and their young daughter, Emma. The article mentioned something that made my blood run cold. Emma had gone missing 5 years ago. She had been only 4 years old when she vanished, and despite the police's best efforts, no trace of her had ever been found. The Millers had moved out shortly after Emma's disappearance, and the house had remained vacant until Brian and I bought it. I stared at the computer screen, my hands cold and shaking. The lullaby, it had to be Emma's. That night, I sat in the nursery with the baby monitor, waiting for the melody to play. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but when the lullaby started up again, I felt a chill run through my body. It was louder now, so loud that it filled the entire room. And then, just as before, I heard the voice. "Please, help me." I couldn't just ignore it anymore. The lullaby was a message, something Emma had left behind, and I had to find out the truth. I went to the attic, where I had already noticed a trunk hidden away beneath a dusty old blanket. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I was prepared to know what I might find, but the need to understand overpowered my fear. Inside the trunk, I found old photographs of Emma, her smiling face frozen in time. There were other items too, a small, faded stuffed animal, a worn-out book of fairy tales, and a toy music box. I picked up the music box carefully, my fingers trembling. When I opened it, the lullaby played, soft, sweet, and almost exactly like the one I'd been hearing through the baby monitor. But as the music played, I noticed something strange. The box, which should have stopped on its own, kept going. It never seemed to stop. And then, as the final notes of the lullaby echoed in the room, a sudden coldness swept through the attic. The air grew thick and heavy, and I felt something shift behind me. I turned to find a shadow standing in the corner. It was a small figure, just a child, standing still in the dim light. The figure didn't move, but I could feel the weight of its gaze on me. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. "I'm sorry," the voice whispered again. "I didn't mean to scare you." I could barely breathe as the shadow slowly began to dissipate, like smoke in the air, leaving behind only the faintest trace of a cold chill. The music box clicked off, and everything went silent. I never heard the lullaby again after that night. When I spoke to Brian the next morning, I told him everything. We called the police, who investigated the house further, but they found no new evidence regarding Emma's disappearance. They did, however, confirm something I already knew: the Millers had lost their daughter, and her disappearance was never solved. But I knew. The lullaby had been a warning, a plea for help from a child who never truly left. The house wasn't just haunted by Emma's memory, it was haunted by her presence, trapped in the nursery she once called her own. As for me, I don't know if I truly helped Emma, but I do know that I can never forget the sound of her lullaby. It still plays in my dreams, soft, sweet, and haunting. A song that will never stop. That, my friends, is a reminder of how some stories never truly end. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Deadscape Diaries, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another terrifying story. And remember, be careful what you bring into your home. Because sometimes, the past has a way of reaching out, and it might just have a lullaby for you. Until next time, stay safe, and always listen closely to the sounds around you.